can't get enough of you. Well, you got what it takes for me to act a fool. Took a walk in the wood, sure did take our time. Took a walk in the wood, sure did take our time. Now what we did out there sure stays on my mind. Hot sunny day. Hello everyone, my name is Mark Hummel and I am a blues musician for my entire life. Started playing when I was 15 years old, and I've been making my living since 1981 strictly playing music. My main instrument is harmonica, and I sing, and I do play guitar, but I wouldn't call myself a guitar player because I'm surrounded by guys that are so great. I remember when I first started playing the harmonica, if a guy sang, I would speed past the singing and go right to the harmonica solos. So, I mean, there are certain harmonica players that I like their voices better than others. I love Junior Parker's voice, who was a harmonica player. Little Walter's voice I really liked. Even though he wasn't an incredible singer, he was a great blues singer. Somebody like Sonny Boy was pretty equal in terms of his singing and his playing. They were pretty interchangeable. All those guys that I liked, I think, tended to be, they were equal in terms of that they would sing, they would play a note on the harp, they would sing, they would play a note on the harp. It was almost like the harmonica answered the voice. Well, you drive me wild when you do the things you do. Ooh la la. I think there was a number of things that really fascinated me about the harmonica. One is you couldn't see what the person was doing because it was hidden behind their hand, and they were playing, it was like all like that, and then you had a microphone in front of that, so it was a very mysterious sound to me. Somebody gave me a Sonny Terry and Brown and McGee record when I was about 14 or 15, and I went and saw them at this place in Los Angeles called the Ash Grove, and then somebody gave me a Paul Butterfield album and a James Cotton record, and I listened to those, and I became totally addicted to that, and then Lil Walter, I found out about Lil Walter really early on, and once I heard Lil Walter, I was just totally hooked, and Sonny Boy Williamson, and Junior Parker, Big Walter Horton, all these guys that I heard really hooked me on harmonica. Well, I think the main thing about the blues is it is black music, and it's music that African Americans came up with. It was their invention, and all of the rest of us are just borrowing from it and kind of adopting it, and learning it. That would be the best way of putting it. Is something you got to learn, and it's something for the white guys of my generation that were blues players. We were lucky enough to really work side by side with a lot of the older guys that were the originators of it. So I got to work with all these heavy guys that were a good 30 years older than me. People like Lowell Fulson or Eddie Taylor or Jimmy Rogers or Billy Boy Arnold, Lazy Lester, James Cotton, Snooky Pryor. There's so many. I mean, guys that I idolized.
I was doing us wrong. Whoever told you, baby, better be getting on. Some people always talking about.
I've always been on the side of the underdog. That's the best way to put it. I've always been on the side of the underdog, and that was really what got me into blues. Was that I saw blues musicians as being kind of the real meat and potatoes of music in America, and that they weren't treated with the kind of dignity the rock stars were. And that was the part I related to. I related to that stranger in a strange land kind of feeling that the blues people had. And I never felt like I was, Mr. Popularity or on top of the world. I always felt like I was kind of the one that was, on the outs. I felt like I was on the outside. And that's what I felt like the blues people were about, is they were on the outside. And so that was the part I related to in this kind of music, especially when the 60s hit, the whole situation changed. In other words, black musicians that played blues were considered passé. Yes, it was soul music. Soul music was what was in. Blues music was out. And guys like B.B. King said that. They said, I feel like I don't have my audience anymore. Like my audience has gone away. And I relate to that. I understand, because nowadays that's kind of how it is, All of us guys that are blues guys, we're kind of like, we're playing to an older crowd that's our age. It's not like young people have really grabbed onto the blues. And so in a sense, we're not, pretty girls with long legs. We're not, young kids that are 18 that are jumping around on stage. We're the older guys now, and it's kind of like that's sort of been our legacy, is that we got to play with the originators, and that's the part that was the real gift to what we do, is we got to play from the guys. We got to play with the guys that were, the ones that really created this music in terms of the electric side of blues, And I've made my living playing the friggin' harmonica my whole life. How lucky is that?
And if she ever leaves me, that's going to break my heart.